This is what Walter Benjamin means when he says that fascism is the addition of the aesthetic to politics. It's about feeling good.
Yeah.
And so for Davos, it's about Trump feeling good.
There's like also like the reverse seems to be in play in terms of like it's a place where you can sort of like fabricate what's going. It's a place where you go to rationalize the horrors and fabricate what's sort of going on. And for a very long time, like, the system that has been in play, I think, and this is where Carney is sort of right, which is in the sense of like, well, it's self-congratulatory, but we've also sort of like allowed ourselves to kind of, as in like, these countries have allowed themselves to, turn a blind eye in order to sort of like uphold the fiction and to sort of allow the dehumanization of certain people and certain kind of groups and communities while sort of convincing themselves that it's for like this kind of greater good, that it's to sort of sustain the liberal triumphalism. But then what happens when, like, as you mentioned, the senile rapist and, his non-senile rapist friends take over this power that for a long time, like everyone has had to sort of like at least profess some sort of belief in. And, for them to be like, no, actually it was never like this. Because this is it. It's also like, the Trump administration is very much one of like, the way that we are governing is not going to be like other administrations, but also like they understand what the US state is, and they understand what the empire is, and they understand what its purpose is.
And they like it.
And they like it.
Yeah,
and they think
it's fun.
And they think it's fun. And like when you sort of see like how they react to like all the horrors happening in Minneapolis right now, as well as all the horrors happening in Gaza and in the West Bank and, like all the other places where they are sort of like facilitating wars. The thing that they will say is actually this is all good and we should do more of it. And if you don't like it, then there's the door, and also we're going to invade you as well.
It's because it all comes down to spite. It's just the sort of animating factor in American and I think Canadian politics for the last like at least 5-10 years has been spite, like scoring points on the other side. And now we're seeing what happens when those people are in charge. And to them, Gaza is just owning the enemy, not even Gazans, just people at home. The same with Minneapolis. It's like they'll kill and pepper spray as many people as they like. They'll trick a 5-year-old into knocking on his dad's door and then arrest his dad because it pisses people off. And that's all there is going on.
And I think it's funny as well. And this is the other thing, like, I think, pre like this sort of period of like Trumpism, it's not to say that they've been very good at sort of like ignoring the sort of horrors that are at their doorstep, but like there are strategies that have been in play in order to sort of like never have to address it. So it's like, okay, like how do you address the fact that like, you sort of wiped out the majority of like, a population of people, like stateless peoples, and that like, everyone sees videos of it every single day. And like, it is not normal for that many people to sort of see people like just people starving and dying and stuff like on a daily basis, in that way. And like that, for that to never be addressed. Well, the way that you do that is employ that, these people aren't actually human beings anyway, right? Or they're like sort of nefarious enemies or whatever. But also you don't even have to address it. Like this is the thing, like one of the sort of underpinnings of like the Carney speech is also this recognition that like actually none of the people that have sort of benefited from sort of like tentative US protection have really had to work out like how they rationalize the horrors. They can just like arrest or punish or ignore people who have sort of brought them up and sort of criminalize them. And increasingly over time, as like these people become harder to ignore, the ways in which, you employ like the violent internal state in order to sort of deal with them. But the point is that like the Trump administration and the way that it's kind of now sort of conducting policy domestically and internationally is one where like they can no longer ignore what's going on, but they actually have to work out like a new way of like, they have to work out like what they actually think and feel about stuff now, right? And that's like quite hard. Seemingly it's quite hard for quite a lot of them to do that, not least our own prime minister who like is currently just trying to figure out how to sort of survive himself.
Well, he's short circuit without the idea of the UK as a junior partner in the American imperial project in a way that's more close to that project than other European states. He does not know what to do because he is there to.
But also, what I was going to say was also like the media like infrastructure that very much is kind of like how Starmer directs policy also has no idea how to deal with this. Like someone sent.
Well, it's because they know it's almost if they don't know, they know what the right answer is. Because the right answer is, well, if a bunch of, well-meaning sandal-wearing hippies think we shouldn't be close to the U.S., then what we should be doing is close to the U.S. because it's all negatively polarized.
Yeah, but if that president is like, we're going to invade a bunch of white people to piss off a bunch of white people, like they don't, because like I'm just thinking about like these screenshots that someone sent me of like Tim Stanley comment pieces. Like, and he's not a serious, like he doesn't like need that much like seriousness, but I think it's like indicative of like where. Because he is like a notable, he's like a notable columnist.
He's the kind of person that someone like Morgan McSweeney would think is the speaking for real Britain.
So in 1 week, he's just like, oh, we should actually get closer to the US, and like, the way in which like Trump is sort of doing things, he may be brash, but like he understands like how the world works. And then like the following week, he's just like, fuck, we need to like get away from the US. Trump is crazy, and he's gonna like, and his argument mostly hinged on the fact that what it very much seems like Trump is, very close to just like abandoning Ukraine entirely. And I think when he does that, that's going to be like it's going to be a real telling moment for a lot of like this particular group of people who have been very happy to sort of ignore the punitive, like just ignore the horrors that are sort of taking place in Gaza, to now have to recognize that like, oh no, like the US empire sort of comes for everyone in some form or another. And actually like the bigger thing is that like, Trump actually just doesn't give a shit about British people. And I think for a long time they've been like, oh yeah, we're going to be all right because we've got like US protection, and like Trump really likes Nigel Farage. And, I think this week, like someone senior from the Trump administration briefed like a couple of newspapers being like, yeah, he just doesn't give a shit about like Britain or Farage or like any of that stuff. Like he kind of just thinks you're an irrelevant country.
And a smarter, better politician, for example, hate on Carney all you like, he is smarter than Keir Starmer by probably quite a wide margin.
Well, he's been alive. He's been more alive for a long time as a vampire. So,
well, it's interesting that you say that, because I actually was wondering this week if maybe this could all have a positive effect on British politics. If essentially this could do for British politics what it did for Canadian politics, which is that all of our like hard right politicians are so in bed with Trump, and now Trump is basically saying like, I hate Britain, Britain's gay, I'll invade you, like whatever. And I think the British public are going to be like, nah. Yeah. Nah, don't like this, don't like that, don't like people who like it.
I feel like we have enough self-hatred to be like, yeah, okay, for like, they just be like,
yeah, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah, maybe we are actually really gay. Who knows?
Yeah, well,
yeah. But I want to talk about, before we time out, because I know Dan's got a heart out, I want to talk about this article I read in the Globe and Mail. This is why you're here, young Daniel.
Hello.
For a moment of gloating about total Bottleman vindication, and then talking about this article.
They're going to rename it the Sphere and Post.
I remember.
Yeah, that's right.
We did an episode with Gary Brescher, the war nerd, at one point about Canada's military planning in 2021 for the high Arctic. They planned for an invasion of the Arctic from Russia or China, the usual suspects of Western military planning. And what the three of us noted was there is absolutely zero consideration of that. The most likely threats are coming from the South.
Amen, brother.
And here we fucking go. I mean, what is China if not now the single most powerful defender of multilateralism globally?
It's funny. I went on Radio Wernerd last year to talk about like a potential invasion with Gary Brescher, aka John Dolan, aka the War Nerd, and Mark Ames about a potential invasion of Canada. And I reiterated some of the points that you and I went over, Riley, on the Bottleman episode with John. And the War Nerd community was very split between being like, right on, and fuck this guy, he doesn't understand Canada. Specifically, a lot of Canadians got angry. And recently, like, Mark Ames was like, Bottleman vindicated. And just a ton of people in the comments were like, well, the oath and oath overseer framework might work for British Columbia, but it doesn't work for Ontario. And it's just like, it fucking does.
Total Bottleman vindication every day.
Which family of oafs has controlled Ontario politics for the last 15 years? Give me a fucking break.
That's right. So we were right about that. We're right about everything. But they want to talk about this. There's a Globe and Mail article about the Canadian Armed Forces now having to model a hypothetical U.S. military invasion of Canada and the country's potential response. This is from the Globe and Mail, which includes tactics similar to those employed against Russia and later U.S.-led forces in Afghanistan by the brave hosers of the Mujahedeen.
Oh my God!
Amazing.
As fucking if Gord, who works at Tim's, is going to be like, you know what? I need to be more like the Mujahedeen. There's not a chance. Not
gonna be a fucking martyr, buddy.
I want turban-wearing Canadian Mujahedeen, smoking hash, hiding in culverts.
I'll tell you what, buddy. These fucking Americans, these fucking Yanks are creating fitna, right?
The fucking Great Satan, eh?